Well, it's a landmark, you know what I mean? It shows you, like, where I'm from.
You know, I live in Long Island City, behind the Pepsi sign.
When we were driving over the 59th Street Bridge, we used to see the Pepsi-Cola sign, and we knew we were at home.
It was there when I was born, and I hope it's there when I die.
I mean, it's traditional. You can't get no more than that, traditional.
It is Long Island City.
We were asked to design a new residential community on the waterfront of Queens. And part of the challenge was to incorporate the original Pepsi-Cola sign, which existed on top of the original factory.
In the 1930s, Long Island City, particularly the Hunters Point community, was one of the most vibrant industrial areas of New York City. Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company moved into the waterfront in the late 1930s and took over the old site of the Standard Oil Refinery. On that location, they did everything. They made their bottle caps, they did their own packing, they made their own syrup, and they shipped the soda all around the country. Really, to showcase the pride that this company had in this new location, they built this sign, Pepsi-Cola, right there on the waterfront, and became almost immediately a cultural icon identified with that neighborhood. During the 50s, as the company grew, they moved their world headquarters into Midtown Manhattan. In the 70s, they moved their research and development out of the location. And by 1998, they moved the bottling to a larger facility in College Point. And at that point, the site became vacant.
In order to save the Pepsi sign, the idea is to bring down the sign from the top of the building and relocate it to an adjacent site temporarily, and eventually bring it back to its original location at the end of the axis of 42nd Street.
My name is Vera Luther. I've been working here on the roof of PepsiCo since 1998. In 98, for the first time, I built a camera like the one you're seeing in the background to photograph this beautiful and famous sign facing Manhattan. This enormous camera allows me to make an image which is 10 feet high and 15 feet wide. I do expose directly onto photo paper. I don't print a negative, so I get an incredible sharpness and tonal range.
16 and 32, right?
Mm-hmm. I learned that they will eventually sell the property and remove the sign to different premises, and that's when I suddenly had the idea that it would be a wonderful project to come back here and photograph the disassembly of the logo.
I gotta come down and boom up, no? Watch the hose.
It's a pretty big effort to make one exposure. Here's the A, the last letter to go. Beautiful A. This is really meaningful for me because I meant to I meant to document the change. I think it's very important that it doesn't get thrown away, demolished like the building does. So basically, save the best part of this. And I think the people of New York City are very happy about not losing it. See the shadows of the United Nations on the river? It's really beautiful. Very nice, yeah. Oh, exciting. Excellent.
Hunters Point has responded to the economic and social changes that are reflected in the greater New York City itself. Where at one time it was an industrial community, today it's becoming one of the premier residential neighborhoods in New York. And it's very interesting to see an adaptive reuse of many of the elements of Long Island City's proud industrial past into a new use for new purposes for a new century.
Danny, this bottom's gonna go on that rail. We'll put it right against the post.
Long Island City has an industrial past that is very much part of its identity. Signs like the Pepsi-Cola sign are very much part of what this city was all about. In any new development, one usually tries to incorporate some elements of the past that tell the story about the place. This new community will have tall 40-story buildings and some 30-story buildings, some 10-story buildings, and a beautiful park on the river. And as a centerpiece of this park will be the Pepsi-Cola sign. It'll be like a sculpture, like a historical piece, like an archaeological artifact that was found on the site that will tie everything together and make the neighborhood a more complete neighborhood.